It was at this park in Cincinnati that a little girl, 11 years old, at a fucking playground, was shot and killed right around this time of day. It was 6:45 p.m., says the AI, and they haven't caught who did it. But I'll bet you anything, and God bless her soul, Queenery Reed, and God bless her family. It's just awful. Next time you think you got it bad, remember this. It could be a hell of a lot worse. And when I went to prison, I was suicidal. And one of the things that got me through was watching forensic files and old cold case files and stuff, because that was the one thing that I could grasp onto to remind me that it could be a hell of a lot worse. Hey, I might be about to do 20 years, but at least me nor my family members were grisly murdered. But I was definitely, what led me to prison was a victim mentality. I gave up on humanity, and I had some good reasons, but I was convinced that the world owed me something, because I had been a relatively good guy. Not really, I'd been a shitheel, but in my head, I thought that I had been a pretty good guy and I deserved my comeuppance, and so I was just gonna take it if nobody was unselfish enough to give it to me. And what I've really keyed in on this whole thing of people being obsessed with what everybody else is doing. I thought it was a prison thing, but as I have been out about 4 years now, I see it everywhere. I see it even in my loved ones. I see it in my coworkers. Everyone is obsessed with what somebody else is doing. And there's power in that, as long as you can make everybody else worse than yourself, then by default, you're better than everybody. Everybody walking around with a fucking God complex. I don't believe that God was a white bearded man in the sky that hears prayers all day, but the Judeo-Christian values, best thing that humans have come up with to live by. And I think because people are so rebellious toward the Bible, they throw the baby out with the bathwater to a large extent. But really what I wanted to talk about is that this little girl was a victim. And it seems like while other people would look at that and realize rightly that she's a victim, they also think themselves victims. They think they're victims of the government. They think they're victims of something somebody said. They think they're victims of racism, nepotism. They think any number of reasons. People come up with all these reasons because they're so insecure about themselves why they are victims. And the thing about victimhood is there's power in it, because you ward off anybody being able to criticize you in that state, but at the same time, you make yourself of no use to anyone else. And it's self-defeating, because you are in a state of helplessness and blaming everyone else for your problems. And sometimes you are victimized, but it doesn't do you any good to sit around resenting about it. What does you good is thinking about your part in that, if there is any, and thinking about how you can be unlike the person who victimized you. And not just by thinking of how horrible they are and making yourself better by proxy, but by looking and thinking, what's the opposite of that? What was done to me? Well, that's what I want to be more like. John F. Kennedy, God rest his soul, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. And we have lost that ideology, and I understand it to an extent, because the government's not our friend. But on a human level, People need to stop being victims and think about how they can do good to others. It comes back to you. That's about all I got.